Anything else? Big states, small states, southern states, northern states?
There were some fortuitous things. Many of the votes were especially close. I think New York was decided by less than 5 votes. But some of the some states, didn't fortuitous. There were several unanimous decisions regarding the Constitution.
What was significant about when the New York ratification vote was held?
It was significant because since this was passed by such a small majority, that it showed that people were truly debating what was inside the Constitution itself. And once New York had gone with the Constitution, many of the other states were more willing to go with that same place and same statute, because then they saw that a large state could survive in that Constitution, and they were more willing to follow the lead.
Yeah, New York and Virginia were 2 of the most important states for the things, and the fact that they passed it was significant because they were the economic centers of of America, and they would be necessary for the continuation of the United States. And they were some of the most influential states, and it sort of showed that this could function.
What similarities, if any, are there between the ratification convention process and the amendment process?
Actually, they're pretty much the same, as the amendments have to be ratified by a 3/4 majority, and for the Constitution to take effect, nine of the states had to allow it to pass through. So it's a 3/4 majority.
There is a very similar process today. State ratifying conventions can happen again. It's simply not chosen to do so. Out of the 27 amendments, it's only been used once on the 21st Amendment. States, although they never do it, if 2/3 of the states propose an amendment, it's brought before Congress to decide whether or not to do so by state legislatures or state ratifying conventions. And then if a 3/4 majority in either one of those as dictated by Congress, then an amendment can be passed almost solely by the states without congressional approval.
And that's found in Article 5 of the Constitution.
City Kenyon wrote an article saying anti-federalists were men of little faith. Do you believe that?
I completely disagree with that, actually. If I lived in 1787, I most definitely would have been an anti-federalist. I believe that the body of the Constitution did not adequately specify individual rights, and the Bill of Rights was a completely necessary document in order for our Constitution to be ratified.
Madeline, you want to start?
Yes, well, I was impressed by your opening statement, and one of the things that I found fascinating is you gave a historical perspective, not only from ancient times, but brought it right up into the 20th century. Your inclusion of quotes from delegates such as James Madison, and even the explanation of John Jay, and the general use of the Federalist Papers, I thought was very well done.
John, go ahead.
Okay, I thought you did a very good job on your opening presentation. You mentioned the Massachusetts Compromise in there, which was critical. Expansion on voting rights, they did that in New York. Peaceful ratification, not always found throughout the world. I thought your handling of the amendment ratification process was wonderful. You had not only the statement that all of the amendments have been ratified by legislatures except for one. You knew what one was not ratified that way, but by convention, because prohibition could never have been ended by vote of state legislatures. That was just politically not possible. On the question that I asked about the politics of going to conventions rather than legislatures, there were you gave us several reasons, but a couple more. One was simplicity. When you go to state legislatures, 11 of the 13 are bicameral. That means you've got to go to 24 different bodies to get approval of 9 of those states. So you've got probably 18 different bodies they've got to get approval of. Whereas if you go to state conventions, you only need 9. So it's just simpler that way. Also, you get to elect men who wouldn't be in the legislatures. George Washington, George Clinton, John Hancock, whether they be Federalists or anti-Federalists. It broadens the prominent men who are to serve. I'm a little concerned because I think the book gives an impression that slavery wasn't an issue, but it was. You're not the first class that said it wasn't too much of an issue. It was a pretty big issue, different places. I wrote a book on it, and so I know that it's a big issue. I like the reference to Virginia and the problems it had. What you really meant was Pennsylvania, where they had the problem. But I understand that, and you don't get marked down for it. I'm just commenting that it's Pennsylvania. And so you did give an example of the politicking going on in calling conventions quickly. And in Pennsylvania, they did have great difficulties in doing that. You commented also on Madison's notes at the end. I think that's an important issue. You just touched briefly on it. There's a lot more that could be said. Before I finish, I think it's incumbent upon me to say one reason why you did such a good job here is because of your teacher. You have one of the finest teachers in the country, and Ken Besh has prepared you very well. And so I'm not at all surprised at the quality that you presented to us this morning.
Nor am I, and I will just say, I liked your opening statement. One of the things I liked about it was that, and this might not seem unusual to you, but unfortunately it sometimes is unusual, you answered the specific question that was asked. And you answered in a very systematic and organized way. It was very easy to follow, with the one, here are the reasons, 1, 2, 3. It was very well stated, and I thought a lot of substance, very, very thoughtful, very thought through. And I thought that your answers to the questions were good. I had a feeling a couple of times that you weren't real sure of the answer, or you weren't expecting the question possibly, but I thought you fielded the questions nonetheless very well for that. And I was impressive to be able to sort of put the data together on the fly, as it were, is among the most difficult tasks in your jobs or mine. And I thought you did very well.